Hello, it is Monday. It is the 4th of May, 2026. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller, and welcome to today's edition of Weather to Watch. Let's get started looking at the lower 48 here. We've got a huge upper-level cyclone up here in the northern U.S. and in southern parts of Canada. High cirrus blowing in across much of the southwest. Very nice weather in this section of the country, with the exception of some showers and thunderstorms expected in this area. We'll tell you how severe those will be here in a second. Let's overlay the 500 millibar flow, and you can see that upper level system with strong winds circulating around this thing in northern parts of the country, with North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin definitely in the flow of that. Generally, flow is west to east across the U.S. High pressure is in control at the surface here, but we have fronts that are moving in as well, and we'll highlight those in a second. Here is the all hazards look for Monday. This is just kind of a snapshot. All these areas here in tan are wind advisories. If you see this purple, it's a red flag warning for outdoor burning. These are actually frost and freeze advisories here, and this is winter storm activity. And I'll show you here that they're still getting some snow in the early part of May, and not just in the higher elevations. Fort Collins is expecting just over 3 inches over the next 2 days. Denver almost 3. Colorado Springs getting in the act, just over 2 over the next 2 days. And the mountains up to the north and west of Denver are expecting 24, maybe 36 inches of snow. So let's take a look at the temperature and the front pattern here over the next couple of days. Today we do have a cool front stretching across the plains. Pretty warm down here in Oklahoma and Texas with temperatures in the 80s. As far as precipitation is concerned, this is a severe weather highlight area. I'll talk about more in a second. These darker green areas, or solid green I should say, are just where it will rain pretty good. And this is more scattered rain and thunderstorms. Remember, this is through tonight and early tomorrow, so some of this activity here in Arkansas and Missouri won't happen until later on tonight. Then we go to Tuesday. That front continues its very slow trek southward. Slow because this upper level low is shunting things more this way than this way. So this front is a slow mover. Still warm in Texas and in much of the east and southeast. A lot cooler in the northern plains gradually. The pattern of precipitation shifts on Tuesday. Now the severe weather threat is right there. Again, I'll give you much more detail on that in just a second. General scattered rain and thunderstorms through this frontal zone. Notice nothing solidly colored green like out here, where the precipitation is expected to be more of an all-day event. Then we go to Wednesday. The front continues its slow trek down to the south. Much of the central U.S. and northern U.S. now much cooler, pretty warm in Florida and in Texas, and the severe weather threat shifts even a little bit more now on Wednesday, with the scattered rain and thunderstorm areas showing up broadly along the front and a little bit also across parts of Kansas and Texas as well. Texas Panhandle, more solid precipitation up there in Montana, parts of Idaho and Washington. Now let's take a look at that severe weather threat day by day. So here's Monday, and we have a level 2 out of 5 severe weather threat from Kansas City to just north of St. Louis to stretching over to around South Bend, northern Indiana, up to around Dayton, Ohio. There is a tornado risk with that. It's pretty minimal, but it is a 2% chance in this area from north of St. Louis up into southern Michigan, including northern half of Indiana. There is a severe hail risk. They did adjust this a little bit at the afternoon outlook. So the 15% chance, which just means a 15% chance within 25 miles of a hailstone 1 inch or greater. That's the yellow area here. And then this hatched area is significant. So if it's going to be above 2 inches, this Storm Prediction Center kind of highlights it. So it was this morning just here, and now they bent it back a little bit. All that means is the high probability of any severe hail is here, and if it occurs at all, this is where it'll be at its biggest. So the intersection of those two is where you would expect the worst possible condition. Now on Tuesday, we've got a severe weather risk that goes from southern Missouri through the heart of Arkansas, including Little Rock and Jonesboro, all the way down to Dallas, technically. Now this has been upgraded. The tornado risk went up from 2 to 5% and was extended a little bit more to the north. So much of central and northern Arkansas is under that 5% risk. And in terms of intensity, they did go to the first level of intensity that the SPC will talk about, which favors EF2s or EF1s and zeros, but EF2s are not impossible. 14% chance experience shows in this striped area right here, pretty much almost covering all that 5% risk area. And then on Wednesday, that does shift south, as you saw. So now the severe weather threat runs from around Tyler, Texas, almost to Austin, about the northern half of Louisiana, southern third of Arkansas, straight through to Jackson, Birmingham, Alabama, all in that risk. Let's take a look at what's happening at the 500 millibar level, at least on average. So this is just the mean for a whole week starting today. So when you see this, and the colors indicate much below normal from what is expected, this is a cold pattern. So this is a trough of low pressure here, while a ridge of high pressure is building out over the northwest, and that's going to lead to some warm temperatures. So hand in hand, usually the temperature anomalies are high where the ridge is, and you're seeing that. The central and southern and central U.S. all showing pretty much below normal, with the centroid of that up there in southern Canada, and pretty dry with this northwest flow. We're just not getting moisture coming up from the Gulf like we would normally do. So these areas are going to be abnormally low with their precipitation, with the exception of the snow I showed you there in Colorado and some of that frontal activity here and eventually here. If we go a little bit more out now, frost and freeze possibilities. Thursday, a pretty large chunk, and you already saw some of the advisories going out for that. And then that extends to a little bit of New York, Pennsylvania, and New England on Friday and Saturday. Here is what the low temperatures on Thursday morning are forecast to be. So below freezing and hard freeze territory there, from Denver and Colorado Springs into maybe parts of the panhandle of Texas, certainly western Nebraska and Kansas, and temperatures awfully close to frost temperatures up here, and that would only take mid-30s, maybe even upper 30s, depending on the situation. So that's a real cold shot of air for sure. So the numbers are the actual highs and lows, and the colors are the departure from normal on those lows. Now, on the heat side of things, believe it or not, that ridge will be leading to some excessive heat, not necessarily record-breaking, just warm for the season in parts of California, including Southern California and parts of southwestern Arizona. That's beginning this coming Sunday and going through Monday. The high temperature forecast for that area includes some upper 90s and 100s in that area, and the hottest temperature on the map is forecast there for Sunday as well. Still a little bit of cool patches in the northeast and north central U.S., but those beginning to wear off. I did want to talk about precipitation. Now, this isn't any one particular storm, although this is heavily weighed toward the end of this 7-day period, but the heaviest precipitation is from Missouri and Arkansas eastward, and especially Mississippi and Alabama forecast to get what could be 2 to 3 inches over the next 7 days. Now, let's go out a little bit more to the 2-week period here, and we'll look at this same mean, and things are shifting a little bit, so this is not as anomalous, and this trough is shifting off while the ridge out over the west really begins to build. So the high temperature anomalies are spreading quickly to cover just about all of the western half of the country. Still cool in the northeast, though, and in the eastern half. Precipitation anomalies still pretty dry in the central U.S. We're just, again, not getting that moisture, and if it does, it gets cut off by advancing cool fronts, so it only gets up into that area. Still looking at cool temperatures, though, on the cold side of things, the 12th through the 13th, all this area here has a slight risk of having a cold hazard below normal. And if we look at the heat side of things, this is really doubling down the 12th through the 15th with a moderate risk of high temperatures. Excessive heat is what we're looking at here, not necessarily whether they break records or not. And in parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas too. And then the last map will show you that same advisory extends down into the southern half of Florida.